Hey folks, Gene Galin here with the Chatham Journal. I got Asheebo Rojas. We're into the second season of ChathamNC Sports Update. I apologize, I didn't have a chance to really update our opening screen, but hey, we're going to be talking a lot of Chatham County football. Asheebo's got a lot of stories coming out in today's paper. The other thing he's got a lot coming out is he's going to talk about the fact that volleyball's kicked off. Asheebo's been to a couple games, Seaforth. I've been at Northwood. There's also coming up soccer. Asheebo's going out to his first soccer game today, and that's going to be at Seaforth's playing away. Not Seaforth, JM is playing away. All right, let me get rid of that graphic, and I will hand it off to Asheebo. Hold on here for a second. All right. Asheebo, let's kick off with football. And if you want, start with what's in the paper that you've got in the paper. Oh, by the way, folks, I've got to mention I'm at 79 West. I'm using their podcast room. They've got a nice setup here. So if you're interested, reach out to them. I like using it because it's nicely quiet and insulated. And they've got high-speed internet service, which I don't have at my house. All right, let me quit yakking. And Asheebo, it's all yours.
Yeah, so this week in the paper, we got 4 football previews for each of the Chatham County schools from media days last week that we did with me and Gene, did the interviews, talked to the players and the coaches. And also I went to some of the practices as well from last week and stopped by every team just to see what they got going on and what they're working with before the season starts this year. So, yeah, and if you want to pick up the paper, like I said, I got it for Northwood, Seaforth, Jordan Matthews, and Chatham Central. And for each team, we're looking at what they did last year. We're looking at changes and newcomers as far as coaching staffs, new players, kind of changing schemes a little bit as well. And then we're also looking at a little bit of some of the players to watch as well before the season starts for each team. So, yeah, plenty of great stuff we learned about the football teams last week. We want to share it with you guys in the paper. So be sure to pick that up before the schools start scrimmaging. This Friday, we got the Jack Shanner Jamboree at Northwood with Chatham Central and Northwood playing in that one. And then we got, of course, the first official week of the regular season starting next Friday for Chatham County's football teams and footballs all around the state. So, yeah, Gene, what team do you want to dive into first for the football preview?
And work to the west, or do you want to start from the west and work to the east?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you the first time. I think the audio might have cut out.
Do you want to start from the east and work to the west, or do you want to start from the west and work to the east?
Yeah, let's start from the east and work to the west.
All right, so let's start with Seaforth. What was your overall sense of what you got from Coach Gary and the players? Because each one of the coaches was able to bring their they picked players. Asked each one of the coaches was, why do you pick those players? And I thought that was an interesting question because each coach had specifics as to why they brought the players out that they did. So let's go ahead and start with Seaforth.
Yeah, and like you said, on with Seaforth and all the players and the coaches, they talked about their players and who they brought. A lot of them said they brought those players because they've been there for the whole summer, been working out for the whole time and really showed the effort in practices. And at Seaforth, I think that was a big thing for them this year. They talked a lot about building relationships as a team and playing as a unit, which is, I guess something that Coach Gary kind of mentioned. He wished he had that vision in his mind for this program when he first got it a couple of years ago. Now they're going into year 3 of varsity football, and it's time to make that next step. And that was a big emphasis at Media Day last Friday, talking to those guys about some of the things they did outside of the football field, team sessions where they got to know each other, games as well, going to other events for team building, which, always is helpful for a team trying to, like they said, gel together and become a unit before the season starts. And also, too, a big thing with Coach Gary's team this year is they'll look a lot different on offense as far as what scheme they're running. Also, too, quarterback-wise, they got a little bit of a battle between Duncan Parker and excuse me, I forgot the other name. It's Duncan Parker and let me pull it up.
Look, you can pull that up, folks. Yeah. It's the beginning. It hasn't even begun. So
and Duffy Palmer, yeah, it's a lot of information I had to deal with last week. But yeah, Duffy Palmer and Duncan Parker battling out for the quarterback position as well. Coach Gary, he mentioned how Duffy is aggressive. And, in the quote in the story, he said he's like a linebacker, at quarterback. And he likes getting physical. He's smart. He won't make too many mistakes. And, he mentioned he wishes he can put them together. So that's another thing we got this year in Chatham. We got a couple of quarterback battles to watch out for, especially up there on the east side. And we'll talk a little bit about what Northwood has got going on as well. But players to watch, for Seaforth, as I mentioned in the story, we got Nick Gregory coming back at corner and receiver, making looking for a big year for Seaforth. And we also got tight end Alex Hinchman, who and linebacker as well, who's trying to make an impact as a senior leader and step up for this team. And I also have, junior running back Evan Miner. He's also could have a good year. I mentioned in the story as well. They had a couple of guys from JV last year that played really well, and Coach Gary really liked. So Seaforth will be interesting. I think Seaforth will see a lot of improvement from last year, and I think they'll have a running for definitely. They have a chance to be one of the best teams in the county, if not in the conference. I think it's a very good chance. We might see them at the end of the season trying to push for a playoff position, which would be, like we said, a big step up from last year and really that next step that the program really wants to take.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the interesting things that Coach Gary brought up, and he knew exactly how many interceptions they had last year. I think it was like 187, 178.
Yeah, missed tackles, actually.
Yeah, and he said that's what we want to work on improving on. And I think the interesting thing towards the end of it, he was actually talking about how he felt football is it teaches you a lot of life lessons. And he said it taught him a lot of life lessons because he said it prompted him to be successful in life versus some of the folks that he went to school with that really didn't pursue anything outside of just going to school. Overall, what was your set? Oh, and the other thing too is there's a couple of brothers that he had brought. One brother was a senior and the other brother was a freshman. So he's got that combo on his team this year.
Oh yeah, the Hinchman brothers, and it's interesting because I asked Alex, you were part of one of Seaforth's state championship winning team. He was part of the wrestling team that won the individual team title, and he competed for an individual title as well. And asked him, kind of like, what are you looking to bring as far as, the experience you had with a winning program? And how do you planning on helping Seaforth football be a part of that Wells Fargo Cup victory for this year? And, he said it's a big, he mentioned how it was a big responsibility to do that and knowing just how to win and what he learned from wrestling also really applies to football. And that was another big thing we talked about with a lot of the players, a lot of the coaches as well, multi-sports kids, especially the kids that do wrestle, and how wrestling really helped them. But yeah, as far as the brothers he has on his team, I think you asked the younger one, do you think if he'll be better than his older brother? And a little bit of playful banter there we had. So I think it'll be really cool to see those two competing with each other on the football field.
Yeah, I was going to let folks know that if you're watching those videos, Asheebo had, as he mentioned, he went to a bunch of the practices before that media event on Friday. So he asked a majority of questions. And I think you will find, listening to those videos and reading Asheebo's story in the newspaper, the stories in the newspaper, he paid a lot of attention to it and asked good questions. So Asheebo's been doing a good job out there. And actually, I ran into Wanda Bland last night at the volleyball game at Northwood, and she especially liked the stuff that you had asked Coach Little over Chatham Central. And we'll get to Chatham Central next. Anything else at Seaforth before we move a little bit further west towards Northwood?
Nope. I think we summed up, what we learned about Seaforth. Like we said, they're really looking to make that next step, especially on the defensive side of the ball too. But we talked to Nick and some of the guys on the defense. They really want to step up this year. And like you said, clean up the tackling for this year and really make a bigger impact on winning games too.
Oh, yeah. Before we run over Northwood, I do want to bring up one other question that you asked. You asked each one of the coaches about their assistant coaches. And there's some pretty impressive lineups on the assistant coaching side. A lot of alumni from the schools, but also a lot of players, a lot of coaches who had played at the college level. I think one of the schools actually had a pro player as an assistant coach.
Yeah, we actually had a couple. And of course, Coach Tobias Palmer at Seaforth, who spent some time with the Panthers. I mean, a really great position coach with Seaforth. Saw him working with the DBs, got them doing the cone drills, and really got them paying attention to the details as well. And he's a graduate of Northwood, so he's not necessarily a graduate of Seaforth, but he's from the area. He knows the area. He knows the community. So and Northwood also I think has a coach that also played for the Bengals as well this year, Cedric Pearman. And I mean, to have that NFL college experience on top of having a lot of coaches that are also from the schools they're coaching at or from the communities, I think that's really beneficial for Chatham County's football players because I mean they got someone that they can relate to that knows kind of the history of the programs. Some went through this kind of same things that the kids are going through now as far as playing for these teams. Also, you add on the college experience. That's just learning the fundamentals of the game from the people that have played on the highest levels, which is always a plus for a coaching staff.
Yeah, and folks, I'm going to give a plug for Asheebo on X. You follow Asheebo R38. Asheebo, when he's out at the game, is texting out information. He's also including a little bit of videos. When we talk to the coaches during the media event, they're all open to him doing post-game interviews with not just the coaches, but the players. So keep an eye out for that. I think one of the stories I heard last year was a grandma email me saying, hey, I heard my son got interviewed by Asheebo. How can I find him? And I'm like, well, do you use X? And she's like, no. And I go, well, ask your grandson. He'll be able to show you that. So look, I don't care if you're a kid, a mom or dad, or a grandma or granddaddy, follow Asheebo on X and you'll be getting information right from the games. Asheebo and I will be at the Friday night scrimmage Jack Shaner Jamboree over at Northwood. And I think the other Chatham County team that will be out there, I think Coach Little mentioned the Chatham Central Bears will be out there for that Jamboree. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Seaforth's traveling out of the county for their scrimmage game on Friday. All right, let's get into Northwood. What's going on over there?
Yeah, Northwood. Plenty of new things going on at Northwood as far as the coaching staff. They also have another, like we mentioned, another quarterback battle here in the county going on at Northwood. So, I mean, Coach Brown, he's coming back to his alma mater, like we said. Another coach coming back to where he started, and he's working with a little bit of different. I guess coming in with a different mindset, I guess, with the players he has this year, than kind of what Northwood saw last year. Because one of the biggest thing, the quarterback, they don't have Carson Fortune this year, who graduated after a senior year last year. So it's up to Grayson Cox and a newcomer from Jordan Matthews, Rajay Torres, who you guys, if you remember, kept up with Jordan Matthews football last year, was their quarterback. He did a lot of good things for them. Even though they had a little bit of a down year, or they had a down season, he was still able to show some flashes of what he can do. And that's, be athletic with his legs, also get out the pocket, throw the ball down the field, and add a little bit to the run game. So we got Grayson Cox and Rajay battling it out for the quarterback position. They also have Cam Fowler coming back. He was a little bit undecided on whether he would play football or not, but he's back for the Chargers this year, and he's going to be a big piece out in the wideout position and at the safety position for their defense. And I mean, also at the wideout position, I think their wide receivers is probably their strongest group on this team, outside of maybe their linemen. But they have Cam Fowler, like we already said, Isaiah Blair, Antoine Brewington is also coming back. So you have some playmakers on the offense, and Robert Tripp in the backfield. I mean, Northwood is still, I do expect them to still be one of the top teams, not just in the conference. I mean, not just in the county, but also in the conference as well. But it is a new coach, a new system, a new staff. So it might take a while, or it might take 1 or 2 games for them to really get it together. But in my preview, I think that's kind of the thing that Northwood is looking at this year, is kind of just to regroup this set of talent that they have under Dalton Brown's system, trying to get those guys to buy in, which, the Northwood players, representatives at Media Day and the coach and Coach Brown said, that has been a plus for them is buying in. That's been working well, learning the system, getting kids with the program, and they're really excited to show that hey, to really build on last year. Really, they really want to build on last year. They don't want to see this as a step back year, but a build to go deeper in the playoffs than they did last year and have maybe even a better regular season than last year as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. Coach mentioned that he's building on what Coach Johnson had done last year, and that he's looking to change it up. I think there's going to be more throwing in there. You also mentioned Cam Fowler. I ran into his mom down at Doherty's a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, he's excited about playing football. The other thing too, if the name Cam Fowler rings a bell, he was one of the key players on the basketball team. So we'll probably be hearing a lot more about him because he played some with the team in different summer tournaments. Asheebo will have more of that once we get into basketball. And you mentioned Isaiah Blair. I think Isaiah's favorite fan is his mom because she will be posting stuff about him on X. So that's another person you may want to follow besides Asheebo on X. Anything else on Northwood? You mentioned coaches, like you said, they're bringing back a bunch of coaches. And I think, as you mentioned, they've got a coach that was captain of the Bengals. So, along with Seaforth, they've got a strong assistant coaching staff.
Yeah, Northwood has plenty of guys that are Northwood alumnus on their coaching staff as well. And like we said, that's important. For a lot of these Chatham County schools, and once you get into Chatham Central, they're kind of the same way. I mean, yeah, just a bunch of guys that know the program, been around Northwood in their time in the past or around the school for years, who want to really see this program succeed, see them take the next step, and also too, I mean, players to watch as well on the defensive end. We talked a lot about the offense, but Coach Brown brought Colin Weir and Franklin Sandria to the media day. Two guys that he really sees as leading that defense this year, especially Colin stepping into middle linebacker to replace Mason Powell. And, Colin, he's not the most outspoken, but, I mean, he shows it on the field. He really shows it on the field, and he's really excited to step up and be the vocal leader, the main guy for the Northwood defense. And Franklin, the same way for the defensive line. Which will be crucial for the Chargers this year is the trenches, because we saw a little bit of last year that the line for Northwood, that was really a key, especially in games like Cummings, the big games where they really were trying to win those games for conference placing. But Cummings, I mean, they came, they ran through Northwood. Northmore was also another game where it was kind of decided in the trenches and physicality. And I mean, I think if those guys step it up this year on the line with their physicality, I think Northwood could be in really good shape this year.
Yeah, and I want to remind folks, we will both be at the Jack Shaner Jamboree tomorrow. Asheebo will be reporting because he knows a lot more when it comes to writing and reporting than I do. I'll be there taking pictures and videos. Reminder, we were doing this regularly last year on a Wednesday because the paper was coming out on Wednesday. We're shifting the ChathamNC Sports Update to Thursdays because that's when the paper is coming up. So that way you get a preview from Asheebo. Go ahead and pick up a paper. Again, the paper's trying to include pictures of the players. So do what they used to do in the old days. Read Asheebo's story and then cut out the article, put it up on your refrigerator door. Reminder, since we're going to be at the Jamboree, we will have more information next Thursday. And the other thing, too, is there's soccer coming up, but we'll talk about that towards the end of this live stream. All right, so we've finished up with Northwood. Let's move over to Chatham Central. What's going on with Chatham Central and Coach Little? By the way, congratulations, Coach Little. He got married this year. I'm really happy for him. He and actually – before the event, he was talking about how he and he's having to fix up the porches around his house. So that's, coaches don't just coach football. They're out there living lives with their families and having to do, the work around the house. So we talked a little bit about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of changes for Coach Little and for himself and for his program at Chatham Central. So, I mean, a lot of big changes for them. First, they're bringing in two transfers. Nick Glover, one of the best players in all the county and the conference from Jordan Matthews. He's going to have him in his skill positions this year. And he's also bringing over Brendan Oldham, the basketball star from Jordan Matthews, who's going to try football once again after a long time of not playing. And, I mean, from talking with Coach Little, hearing from the guys on the team, I mean, it sounds like Brennan Oldham will make a big difference for the Bears this year, especially at the defensive end position, and maybe a little bit in the offense. And I've heard a lot of good things about the physicality he's brought. I mean, he's really buying in. He's really bringing some of the energy and like I said, the physicality to the practices and to the team, which would be huge. And seeing them kind of turn around kind of the feeling of Chatham Central football this year. And then also too, they talked to their freshman quarterback and Reed Shepard. And I think, having him learn with Coach Little, who was a quarterback himself in college, he has a great weapon, a great set of weapons to use as well with Luke Gaines and Nick Glover in his receiver core. So I think the development of Reed will be really interesting to look at this year. And I mean, Coach Little also said, he brought in some more coaches for his coaching staff as well. Jacob Tedder, the defensive coordinator, Trayvon Tapp, special teams and safeties, DeJuan Bland and defensive backs, guys that have college experience. Guys that have college experience and guys that are also from Chatham Central as well, went to the school, know the community and things like that. And I'm not Reed Shepard, Reed Douglas, their freshman quarterback. I'm sorry. I don't know where my mind is at, but Reed Douglas will be their freshman quarterback. And yeah, players that stood out to me. I mean, of course, their returners in Luke Gaines. They also have on the defensive line and offensive line, Steven Silhall Jr., who was also at the media day, will look to be a big leader for that unit as well. And I mean, I'm just talking with Chatham Central, the coaches, the players. I mean, like I said, it feels like a little bit of a new energy for them this year. They're looking to build on last year. They showed some improvements at the end of last year, but now they want to turn those into wins and really, have something to show for kind of the rebuild of the program under Coach Little. So, I mean, they're really passionate about bringing good football back to Chatham Central. Really excited to see what they have and what they bring this year, especially with Glover and Oldham, and see how they fit in. So, yeah, I mean, Gene, what do you think about the Bears this year?
Well, I think there are two interesting things. One of the things that I found interesting was that Coach Little brought his most improved player from last year to the media event, and I think he referenced that player had thought of him possibly as the seed of Satan. But within a few weeks, the player bought in, and it was most improved, and the fact that he was most improved and learning was one of the reasons Coach Little brought him out. And then I think the other question that was asked to Coach Little, what was their biggest accomplishment? Now, their winning record, they did not have a winning record last year, but I think the thing that was interesting is Coach Little brought up the fact that they played Northmoor at the end of the regular season. I think they lost by a whole bunch. Don't remember the score. And then he says, you know what? The next week in the playoffs, we have to play them again. And at the half, we were tied 0-0. Now, you mentioned that they did not win that playoff game, but the fact that after a big loss at the end of the season, they come back a week later and look, 0-0 at the half. You know what? Coach Little, that was his first year last year. I think there's a big improvement. Do I know if they're going to have a winning season this year? I really don't know, but I think if you're a Chatham Central football fan and you go out there and watch Coach Little and his team, didn't he say one of the things is they played 7-7 a bunch this summer, and they were playing 2A and Central's a 1A team. They played 2A, 3A, and 4A teams. So they're being competitive, and they want to make sure that when somebody comes to play them, they know they're going to get a tough game. And I think the other thing Coach Little mentioned was the fact that because of the reorganization of North Carolina High School Athletic Association conferences, the way they're going to be broken up next year, that we may not have we will probably not have all the Chatham County teams in the same conference the way that we have this year. So that's the takeaway I've got from that. You've got anything else on Chatham Central?
Yeah, I mean, I like that you mentioned the 7-7 because they also said they were winning some of those games as well. Those really went well for them. So that's a good sign. I mean, they're building that confidence, playing against tougher competition in the summer. And I mean, really for them just to put it all together this offseason, looking to throw a ball. I'm sure they're looking to throw the ball a lot this year, and also mix it up with some run and keep a balance. So I'm really excited to see what the offense can do, man. They got some weapons that they can use. A quarterback who's going to be learning, but the quarterback also looked like he's really trying to build that confidence in the throw game, or let him go, letting him have it. Like Coach Little said, he has the keys. So yeah, I mean, it should be a fun season for the Bears. Like you said, I'm not sure. I mean, we probably won't see a winning season from them, not just yet, but at least this is a start in the right direction from them, to build that program up to maybe a winning program in the near future.
Yeah, I think they're going to show a lot more confidence this year than last year. The fact that you brought one of your most improved players up there and he's ready to play this year, I think that's a good sign. All right, so let's finish up with Jordan Matthews. Jordan Matthews has a new coach, so why don't you tell us what's going on there with the new coach, the players, returning players, and their assistant coaching staff?
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Matthews, they have a little bit of new energy this year too with Coach Carter, and what he's bringing to Jordan Matthews. I mean, what he hasn't already brought, he's been there for so many years, both as a player back in the 90s and as a coach since, the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, so he's so bought into this program. He really wants to see it succeed and get it back to the days where he was playing. And Jordan Matthews football, was known for being a good program under Coach Phil E. Center. And some of the values he learned from John Phillips as well. Two legendary coaches at Jordan Matthews. So, yeah, I mean, we talked to the players, Coach Carter. The three things he really harped on was toughness, physicality, and discipline, which would be huge for the Jets this year, especially after they lost, quite a bit of talent. Like we said, they did lose Nick Glover, who was probably their most dangerous offensive weapon last year, outside of Gabriel Brewer, who also graduated. But, yeah, I mean, they have plenty of good pieces to work with instead of Kenneth Dula, who is one of the best defensive backs, not just in the county, but also in the conference. And they also have him to play both sides as well. Really athletic, really smart player, and a leader for them as well. We talked to them. They really want to step up and also brings a little bit of a different feel to Jordan Matthews this year. And also to get excited, I mean, they're going to run the ball this year a lot. That's what Coach Carter harped on when we first talked to him when he got the job, and even all the way up to media day on Friday and watching him at practice. I mean, that's what they want to do this year. They want to establish a run. So we'll see Jakari Blue, Omarion Sanford in the backfield. And, I mean, there's a lot of excitement about what Jakari Blue can do in the backfield. They talked about him running people over, mixing that speed and power that he has. And we also know what he can do as a wrestler as well. So we know he has the physicality. And also, too, other guys that have surprised Coach Carter, like Rashad McSwain, who will be, their tight end this year, coming off of a knee injury. They have Tate Kidd, who they can move around. He mostly plays center, but he could also be a leader on the line. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of new energy coming out of Jordan Matthews, and kind of like Central, right? I mean, they might not have that winning season this year, but we could very well see some improvements, more competitiveness in games this year, and then a little bit more spirited football from the Jets as they get going.
Yeah, the thing I was going to add to that, actually, before I mention that, hey, I want to thank the folks that are watching us live right now, and you're more than welcome to comment on Facebook. We're not on X today. We should be back on X next week because I know we had a bunch of folks watching on Twitter X. I want to thank Cassandra, Derek, see your comments on there. Appreciate the folks that are watching. Also, already noticed that someone shared this podcast. Please feel free to do that. I think this is something unique that we're doing in the county. Talked with a couple of people yesterday at the volleyball game, and they appreciate what Asheebo is doing on covering the sports here in Chatham County, the high school stuff, and reposting it and putting that information out on X. So thanks for that. The thing I found interesting also about Coach Carter, and I think one of the reasons he came back, because he remembers the glory days of Jordan Matthews, is similar to Coach Gary, is he's saying that football is one of those high school sports that teaches you a lot of good life lessons. And he made reference to that. He has said, because he has coached previously, he has mentioned the fact that he has players call him 10 years after graduation to say, Coach, thanks for being my coach because I've got a job. I've got a family. I can support them, and we're leading a good life thanks to the discipline and all the other skills that you learn playing high school football. I mean, look at Asheebo. Asheebo played high school football too, and look at him. And he's doing a great job here reporting on sports in Chatham County. So I think that's the other thing is for anyone following Chatham County sports, you've got coaches who aren't just worried about having good football players. They're concerned about, I think one of the coaches mentioned one of their players had like a crazy GPA of a 4.7 or something like that. So not only are they proud of what they're doing on the field, but they're proud of what they're doing in school and hopefully proud of what they're going to do once they get out of school. And as Asheebo mentioned, you've got high school assistant coaches that are coming back who have played for these teams locally. So that's nice to see. Anything else on high school football here in the county before we wrap that up and talk about a little bit about volleyball and soccer?
No, I think we covered, pretty much what we learned about these teams before the season starts. And yeah, it was always good at the media day to see all the teams interact with each other, kind of fellowship a little bit. The coaches, I know some of the coaches actually were introducing themselves to each other for the first time after, we got some new ones in the county this year. So, I mean, like, the county, everybody is a smaller community. A lot of people know each other. So, like, it should be a really exciting year. We got some players in different places, new coaches, like we said. And the new coaches are familiar faces. They've been in this community. They really want to see good football, and we all really want to see some good football this year. So really excited to see some Chatham County football and see the teams improve off of last year. See what teams could maybe make a push for the playoffs. Maybe we'll be covering football a little bit longer this year. Hopefully so. So that's all I got to say.
All right. And as I remind folks, Asheebo R38 on X. Asheebo's made contact. All the coaches are familiar with him. All the athletic directors for all 4 high schools are familiar with him as well. So if you want good information as to what's going on, Asheebo's the person to follow on X, and pick up the paper on Thursday. And Asheebo does a really nice job. Oh, I don't think I can really get into it. However, there is a rumor that Asheebo might have won an award for a sports story he wrote last year. That's all we are allowed to say because there's an embargo, and it's just a rumor. I'm not saying he won an award, but if he did, congratulations to him. All right, let's talk volleyball. You were at Seaforth. What did you see at Seaforth?
Yeah, so Seaforth played against Apex Friendship for the season opener, second straight year in the season opener on Tuesday night at home, and they did fall 3-1. In their first game of the season. Seaforth, when I looked at Seaforth from the outside looking in, it looked like one of the teams that really want to make a push for a state title this year. I mean, they're bringing back a lot of last year's, basically all of last year's core that took them deep in the state playoffs, had that dominant run in the conference. So they're also adding Josie and Abigail Valgus, the sisters from Woods Charter. Josie was all-state last year, one of the best players, not just in the county, in the conference, but also in the state. So she played a big role as a setter, setting up for Allie Forbes and Kira Rosenmarkle to get the kills on Tuesday night. But they came up against a really good opponent in Apex Friendship, who beat them last year in the season opener 3-2. Seaforth, they got out to they actually dominated the first set and won that one, I think 25-10. But Apex Friendship just really hunkered down defensively. And they're 2 setters at the front, really tall girls that were blocking, a lot of things that came over the net. Also, they did a really good job of making it difficult for Seaforth to return the balls in a controlled manner. A lot of balls end up going out of bounds. So kind of a tune-up game for the Hawks there against a tough opponent. But I'm sure we'll definitely see them improve. Then they really want to work on serving, as well as a lot of serving errors in that game, and their defense were some of the things they want to improve on. But yeah, Seaforth, still to me, I think they still look to be one of the best teams in 2A, really, actually.
Yeah, on the Northwood side of things, they played against the Mustangs on Tuesday night. They won the first 2 matches pretty convincingly. It was like 25-17, 25-19. And then the third match, they had the lead and then kind of lost it at the end. So they lost the third match, and the game actually went on till about 9 o'clock. I didn't stay till the very end, but they did lose the last three matches, so they lost that one 3-2. Game-wise, yesterday they played Western Alamance. Western Alamance dominated through each one of the first three matches, so they lost that one 3-0. Western Alamance just had a stronger team. Some of their spiked balls were, instead of coming right down by the net, were going out towards the back end, and I think they caught Northwood a little bit by surprise. However, I will say, look, it's the first two games of the season. Teams are getting coordinated. Northwood's going to have to do a little bit of reshuffling and get, but they've got some players. There were some impressive, and I did take videos, so you can find videos of match 1 and match 3 up on YouTube. Match 2, I don't have video up because there was the Brian, who's the he's a supervisor of officials, was out there, and they had to make some modifications just to make sure everything was working correctly from a official perspective. So that match actually lasted 27 minutes. So that's not posted, but you can find match 1 and match 3. They will be playing again tonight, but they're playing away. Woods Charter is playing tonight at Woods. Their game is at 6. I'll plan to be over there to grab some pictures. And one of the things, when I get the pictures, I put them in a directory where Asheebo and the Chatham News and Records pulls them out as when the stories need those pictures. So again, read Asheebo's stories, look for my pictures in the Chatham News and Record. And the last sport we got coming up is soccer. And Asheebo, tell us a little bit of what you're going to the soccer game tonight, aren't you?
Yep, I'm going to Jordan Matthews season opener tonight. They're playing in the Beyond Sports Fusion Showcase at Bryan Park in Greensboro against Northwest Guilford. So at 5 o'clock tonight, I will be there. Check my X account. I will be there live on location, just giving them some updates and possibly some interviews at the end of the game there, because, you know, Jordan Matthews Soccer, of course, perennial team that we expect to do well here in the county. And just interested to see what Coach Quadros and his new set of Jets have this year. They lost a lot of key pieces to graduation after last year, John Carlo and Jonathan, as well as some other guys. They're bringing back some really good guys, too, as well, like Francisco Ibarra, who would be big for them. So just interested to see what they have going on tonight. I think most of the rest of the county gets started next week and a little bit after that. So we'll have more soccer coverage, of course, in the coming weeks as more teams start playing. But yeah, tonight we're starting with Jordan Matthews and the Jets, who are coming back after a very deep playoff run and a really dominant season in the Mid-Carolina 1A, 2A conference.
All right, I think that's going to wrap it up, folks. Thanks for watching. Right now, the most we had watching at one time was 16. I'm looking at the numbers. We've had as many as 74 people watch this segment, but we usually run anywhere from 500 to 1,000 views because we don't have that many people watch us live. People are eating lunch or doing other things, but please feel free to share it. Go ahead and comment. We've already got 4 comments on Facebook. We will be back on X next week. And like I said, because the paper is now coming out on Thursdays, we are going to be doing our live streams on Thursdays at lunchtime instead of Wednesday. So, folks, we will see you next week. Just remember, with Asheebo, you need to follow him on X, especially if you're interested in knowing what Jordan Matthews' soccer team is doing tonight. He's going to be out there live, Asheebo R38. So you need to take him, give him a look, and that's it for today. Anything else, Asheebo?
Nope. I will have the stories and the previews from this week up online today after we get off of the stream here. So be on the lookout for those on the Chatham News and Record website, and share those links with all your people around the county as they get ready for the football season here.
All right. And hey, folks, we appreciate all your support. And Asheebo's doing a great job here in Chatham County. We're going to sign